Is that we as Black people are so comfortable learning about Greek, North, or East Asian mythology. When it comes to African mythology, we hesitate.
Come closer. Let's talk about it. A lot of this hesitation comes from colonialism, enforced over generations through media, Nollywood, and even our own families.
And trust us, we get it. We grew up loving stuff like Percy Jackson, Hercules,
Naruto, Spirited Away, all of
it.
But one day, we realized we knew nothing about the stories and folklore from our own continent.
So we started learning
and creating art inspired by it.
And now we share it with you.
Because Africa's history is often told through the lens of slavery, imperialism, and colonialism.
And while that history matters, Africa is more than that.
Our pantheons, traditions, religions, and spiritual systems are rich, diverse, and deeply connected to who we are.
Understanding them means understanding ourselves.
And if that makes you uncomfortable, we're not talking to you.
We're speaking to those open to learning, reclaiming, and reconnecting.
It's not scary. It's not evil.
It's history.
It's culture.
It's us.
Access. Many people will initially respond, and many people did initially respond to their video by saying that, well, for the most part, we didn't have access to this type of information. The mythologies of our African ancestry, we just didn't have it. It wasn't taught, it wasn't in school, you didn't see it on television, you barely see it on the internet, and many people would just talk about access. And although you can make a very strong case for the fact that many people don't know about it, don't know about Mama Wata or Shango or Oshun or Eshu, because we didn't have access to the information when we were growing up. And that's valid to a certain degree. But then you have to ask the question, why did we not have access to it? And that is where the hesitation is going to come into play, by which they are speaking of. You see, we didn't have access to it because of colonialism, like they said, but primarily that was brought on by white supremacy. You see, white supremacy saw that in 1804, when the people of Haiti were able to go back to their orishas and know their orishas, it inspired them to revolt in their slavery. That when the African descendants were in Brazil, that they were able to cloak their belief in their African ancestry in martial arts, as well as being able to leave and run away into the Brazilian jungles, that it allowed for them to establish a kingdom for over 50 years inside of the Amazon, because they were able to still maintain their religious beliefs, whether through capoeira or by running and establishing a kingdom in Brazil. Now, the North Americans learned a lot about that. They realized that. They came out with the Negro Bible. They had the, and I forgot the name of it, but the Willie Lynch letters, to be able to establish that Black people in the Americas need not to know of their actual gods and goddesses, that they don't need to know of their history. They need to believe that their history began when slavery began in the late 1400s and on. That is all the history that they need to know, because other than that, then they will start to recognize who they are. They did not even need to know that within the Bible it talks about an exodus, it talks about freedom. They didn't even need to know about that unless it was guided by the hand of the colonials. And so when we got through slavery and when we got through most of Jim Crow and Hollywood began to come up, and Black people began to be able to read more so than they were in slavery and had access to libraries and other literature, then the popularization of Greek, Roman mythologies became the norm. The popularity of Norse mythology became the norm. That is all that would be put on TV. Now, some of it was done because of economics. White people in Hollywood recognized that the majority of their patrons were white. And so they are going to talk about the mythologies that pushes the white people. Their customer wasn't Black. So there is a business aspect of it, but there was also the social engineering to make sure that you did not have any confidence in your ancestors and who you are, have any gods and goddess and hero stories that was based on you. So those stories had to be squashed. And the best way to do that, since they already had indoctrinated you into Christianity, and the version of Christianity that they indoctrinated you into was a Roman-based version of Christianity. And before anybody says anything, even the Levantian style of Christianity was not African. It was based on people in the Levant. It had nothing to do with people in West Africa. It didn't talk about Anansi. That wasn't part of the program. Shango wasn't part of that program. So they still was not African. It didn't even talk about Egyptian mythology. And then when Egyptian mythology did become popularized, it was made Greek. It wasn't made Egyptian. They pushed out the Cushite. They pushed out the Punt, the people of Punt. They pushed those people away and out of the picture to make them Greek. They started Egyptology with the Ptolemies and not with the New Kingdom or the Old Kingdom or the Cushite Empire that came beforehand or the Punt that came beforehand. No, let's not talk about them because we know they look too much like those who we oppress. So with Christianity being the indoctrinated religion of the people, the black people in the Americas, the black people in Europe, the black people in South America, the black people in Central America, and all these other places, let's not tell them their story. Let them not know that the first mermaids were mermaids from Africa. Let's not tell them that. Let's say that the first time they came from the Greeks and not the African. So they couldn't tell you that story because if you have pride in yourself, if you have pride in your history, then you will have heroes that rose up against oppression. And that's not the way white supremacy works. So therefore you didn't have the story. But that indoctrination into Christianity told them that everything from Africa, your orishas are demons. Voodoo is demonic. Voodoo is demonic. Santeria is demonic. So they kept pushing that whatever your ancestors believed in before was demonic, and they were saved by the grace of Jesus through colonialism, through slavery, through genocide of the indigenous Americans. And so by doing that, in today's world, you're hesitant. You don't want stories about your orishas. It is only now, and I love it, but it is only now through Marvel, the Marvel universe, that people are more comfortable with the ideas of Bast, the ideas of, even though Hanuman is an Indian monkey god, but because Hanuman was part of it, they're comfortable with it. They're starting to be more and more comfortable with it. And the rise of black people walking away from Christianity has made black people more comfortable. But those who are still indoctrinated in Christianity, they are not as comfortable. They are not. So usually I would end this with my normal saying, but in this one, Wakanda forever.